Hey everybody. I just knocked my phone over. Not Poolside Chat number 7, I believe. Having technical difficulties. Okay. So this week we're reading and discussing Fate Loves the Fearless, Permission to Win, The Fire Inside, and the 4Ds. Still in Mind Gym by Gary Mack. So fate loves the fearless. The bottom line is you can't be afraid. The fear of failure, more than any other single thing, keeps people in sports and in all avenues of life from realizing their full potential. Fear of failure prevents more of us from succeeding than any opponent. Fear creates the conditions that keep athletes from winning. Fear of failure can restrict a player. It can kill him as an individual. If one continually worries about failing, he'll get so tight that he will fail. So this is really true in swimming. I've talked to swimmers about this for years, and I did it as a swimmer, where you get so tight behind the blocks that you start swimming and you're just as tense over the water as you are under the water, and you're using up twice as much energy just because you can't relax. And so the back half of your race is so much harder than it could have been because you're using double your energy for the first half of the race. One of the paradoxes of sports is that fear of failure actually makes failure more likely. The thought of a negative consequence threatens you, inhibits you, and tightens you up. Fear of failure leads to contracted muscles and shortened breath. It overloads the system with stress. Fear makes you play safe. Fear makes you play small. So it's like we've talked about chapter over chapter with this book and in the last book, that you can't try to avoid. You have to move towards, you can't move away from. Like we talked about setting a goal. We're going to eat healthy. We're not going to try not to be fat. Where does this fear come from? Oftentimes, behind the fear of failure is perfectionism. I think perfectionism is reinforced in society. So we talked about this in Progress, Not Perfection, and I'll say it again. Brene Brown calls perfectionism the 10-ton shield. So think about that. Okay, so do you know how you tell a fake emerald from a real one? The fakes are perfect. Real emeralds have flaws. None of us are perfect. Oftentimes, beneath the desire to succeed and achieve excellence is an ultra-critical, demanding, and judgmental voice. This internal voice beats the person up mentally and emotionally. So if you have a voice that's talking to you in practice and meets at home, you need to learn through mindfulness, through books like this, how to help yourself control that voice. Procrastination is a part of perfectionism, and some people, those who procrastinate, don't do anything. By not doing anything, they can't fail. It is inhibiting and a self-defeating cycle. Fear keeps people from taking risks, and sometimes the greatest risk is not to take a risk. We see this all the time. You guys don't want to swim events. You're scared of events, especially longer events, butterfly events, and sometimes you procrastinate doing it so much that you create so much anxiety around it that it just becomes a bigger deal than it really is. Tennis great Billie Jean King made a profound statement about failure. She said athletes should look at failure as feedback. All-star pitcher Greg Maddux put it another way. Failure is the best teacher in the world. You get to learn from what happens to you, both good and bad, in real life game situation. I've given up a lot of runs in my career, and that means I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've had a lot to learn from them. Failing to learn is learning to fail. By looking at failure as feedback, you can change how you feel. Michael Jordan calls fear an illusion. He and many other great athletes learned to turn fear into anger or other emotions. You can run from fear, or you can get angry and attack it. If you challenged Jordan's pride, he wouldn't be afraid. He used that energy to become more aggressive and better. Good athletes take fear of failure and turn it around. Look at fear as a natural part of growing and learning. People who succeed aren't afraid to fail. Failure can be better failure can be a better teacher than winning. So, homework. What have you learned from a failure in your life? I've told most of you this story, but when I applied to graduate school, I did not get in for my master's in sport leadership. So I got the letter and I called the person in charge of the program and asked them if they had any feedback, what I could do better when I reapplied, that, I really felt like the program was a good fit for me. So we ended up having a phone interview right then about my application and, what my career goals were and what I had put in it. And it was really just like a couple little things that I hadn't communicated really well in my application. So we talked for a long time. We talked about how I would reapply. Then maybe a week later, I got a phone call from him and said, hey, we have somebody that isn't, that got accepted somewhere else and is going to go there. So we have an opening. Would you be interested in coming in to do an interview? So I went in that week, did an interview, ended up getting accepted, and went to Center of Sports Leadership graduate school at VCU, and it was awesome. But so the point of that is I didn't get in. And I could have said, oh, that program's stupid. Or I could have said, well, I'll apply somewhere else. But instead, I called and said, how can I be better? And in doing that, it made me better. It gave me an opportunity to talk to people in the program, and I ended up getting in. So you can really, really, really learn from things that happen to you that seem like negative things and turn them into a positive. Permission to win. Life is a collection of self-fulfilling prophecies. John Neighbor. I love that quote. Okay, so this is about a golfer who should have had no chance to win the British Open, and they were on the last hole. Well, so I'll read this part. They're on the last hole. One hole to go. All Jean Van de Velde had to do was make 6 at number 18. The soft voice of reason told the dashing Frenchman all he had to do was play smart, play conservatively. Hit a 5-iron off the tree, then another 5-iron, then a wedge to the green. 2 putts later, and Jean could kiss his wife and lift the claret jug in celebration as the first Frenchman to win a major golf championship in 92 years. But Jean didn't play it safe. In the gathering gloom, a light rain falling, he hit his driver. The ball sailed wildly offline. Instead of wedging his next shot back onto the fairway, he took a full swing with a 2-iron. The ball bounced off the grandstands and disappeared into the rough. His next shot was from a terrible lie and landed in a winding creek that fronts the green. The world cringed as it watched him single-handedly turn the Open into a stage play as compelling and wrenching as Les Miserables. Jean didn't make 6. He made 7 and then lost in a playoff. When the nightmare was over, witnesses asked the same head-shaking question. Jean, why didn't you play it safe? Why hit a 2-iron? The runner-up gave a little shrug. Next time I hit the wedge, Jean said, pasting on a brave smile. You'll say I'm a coward, but I'll hit the wedge. Why didn't he? Because that's not the way Jean saw himself. Even though a timid shot might have assured him victory, he played the hole boldly and fearlessly. He had to play that way, his wife, Brigitte, said. He had played that way all week. Jean was being true to his self-image. There is a psychological principle called cognitive dissonance. It can be defined as the uncomfortable psychological state that arises when how you see yourself and what is really happening come into conflict. Many athletes who experience this conflict revert to their comfort zone. We all have an interior comfort zone that we want to be in. There are a lot of comfort zone athletes. Limits begin where vision ends. You have to see yourself as a no limits person. For years, breaking the 4-minute mile was thought to be physically impossible. Then in 1954, Roger Bannister ran the mile in 3:59.4. Over the next 2 years, 50 other runners broke the barrier. Why? They had an image. In Bannister, they had a model for success. Humans are the only species that get in the way of their own growth. The most important thing a parent can give a child is a positive self-image. Most of the work I do is as a stretch and not as a shrink. I help athletes expand their comfort zone and encourage them to take risks. If you don't see yourself succeeding or you don't feel deserving, you will sabotage yourself. Be willing to take a risk. Remember, there is no security in life. There is only adventure. Limits begin where vision ends. Visualize success and give yourself permission to win. So I've seen this all the time, right? Kids go to districts and swim really well in the mornings, and then they don't see themselves as being good enough to be in finals or to win an event and bomb in finals. Okay? Or the next step is kids swim really well at regionals, make it back to finals, make a senior champs cut, go to senior champs, bomb, because they don't think they're good enough to be at senior champs. Okay? Or have kids swim really well, senior champs, prelims, and finals, make an NCSA cut, go to NCSAs, bomb, because they don't think they're good enough to be at NCSAs. So you have this level that you associate with how good you are. And then if you go beyond that, done. Cognitive dissonance. You don't think you're that person, so you can't do it. And when you go to these big meets, if you don't think that you're as good as everybody else, or that you don't deserve to be there, or that you can't do it, you won't let yourself do it. So, when have you ever taken a risk? And when have you felt cognitive dissonance? When have you felt like who you are is not in alignment with what you're trying to do? And how can you change that? The fire inside. Each of us has a fire in our hearts for something. It's our goal in life to find it and to keep it lit. Mary Lou Retton. Motivation is a popular word, especially in sports. It comes from a Latin word meaning to move. Athletes can move in one of two ways, either towards seeking pleasure or rewards, or towards avoiding pain or punishment. Motivation can be the desire to succeed or the fear of failure. An athlete's success is said to depend upon 4 factors: physical ability, physical training, mental training, and desire or drive. The desire to succeed needs to be stronger than the fear of failure. Muhammad Ali illustrates one of my favorite stories about motivation. When he was growing up in Louisville, he got a job sacking groceries. He didn't make much money, but he saved enough to buy a secondhand bicycle. He loved that blue bicycle. He was proud of it. He had worked hard for it and earned it. One day, someone stole his bike. He was heartbroken. So Ali apparently walked everywhere looking for his bike, checked with everyone. He never found it. And he says that every time after that, when he got into the ring, he would tell himself, that's the guy who stole my bike. So I thought this was funny because I have told a bunch of you silly little stories about athletes that are on either side of you in lanes next to you at meets to kind of get you hyped up, and it's the same concept. It's just finding a motivation to beat someone, to be better, to be interested in a race. Athletes find motivation in different ways. Roger Clemens said he thrived on the doubts that others had of him. The most successful athletes are self-motivated. The most important thing is to love your sport, said Peggy Fleming, the former Olympic figure skating champion. Never do it to please someone else. It has to be yours. That is all that will justify the hard work needed to achieve success. I tell you this all the time, that this is yours, and I'm just here to help you. Your parents are just here to help you. The other coaches are just here to help you. The sets are just there to help you. But it's all up to you what you do and don't want to do with all of it. It's just like right now. Everyone wants to help you. I'm making these videos to try to help you mentally. Natalie and Anthony and Shannon and I are all making these, and Nay are all making these videos to try to help you do dry lands and get stronger. We're doing Zoom meetings to stay connected to help you guys. But at the end of the day, I can't make you do any of it, right? It's up to you what you do. You are in control. What we associate with pleasure, we pursue. What we associate with pain, we avoid. Playing sports as a kid should be enjoyable, positive, and rewarding. That doesn't mean it's not hard, though. Okay, so homework. How about you? Does a fire burn inside you? Do you have a mission? What is it? What motivates you? If it is fear of failure, let that emotion go. The best motivation is want power, that prideful desire to achieve. Find your passion and make it happen. Be on a mission and live your life with purpose. Be motivated by your desire to achieve rather than your fear of failure. Okay, the 4 Ds. This is our last one for this chat. Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you going. Jim Ryan. The only discipline that lasts is self-discipline. Bum Phillips. So the author talks about how he has worked with a lot of professional teams and steroids and drug use is an issue on those teams. So he says that a sports medicine physician with the U.S. Olympic Committee conducted a study in which he asked young athletes this question: if a drug existed that would help you win an Olympic gold medal, but using it would take 5 years off your life, would you take it? More than half answered yes. Learning how to use one's mind can be as potent as any performance-enhancing drug. In medical studies, many patients report improvement in their physical condition after they are given placebos or sugar pills. Why? Because the power of the mind. So the author, Gary Mack, developed a mental skills training program for drug-free athletes called The Naturals. So he has presented this program to a lot of professional teams and has people talk about it as well. And so it's basically, instead of drugs, do the 4 Ds. So the 4 Ds are desire, dedication, determination, and discipline. So desire is want power, and it's as important as willpower when it comes to accomplishing your goals. What's your wish? What do you long for? What's your dream? How badly do you want it? Dedication. Dedication is turning desire into action, which requires lasting commitment. Football coach Lou Holt said, if you don't make a total commitment to whatever you are doing, then you will start looking to bail out the first time the boat starts leaking. Determination. Everyone wants to be successful, but those who achieve success are steeled by an unwavering resolve. They are self-motivated, the kind of motivation that fueled and sustained Jack Nicklaus early in his pro career as he beat golf balls for an hour, then another, on the practice range until it was almost dark. Let's go, Jack, his new wife Barbara called out impatiently. I'm hungry. With calloused hands, Jack hit another ball, then another, and said, so am I. So the point of that is he's still going to practice even though he's hungry. Discipline. It means doing what you have to do when you need to do it, whether you want to do it or not. I'm going to say that again. I said it kind of weird. Discipline means doing what you have to do when you need to do it, whether you want to do it or not. So this is to me, this is swim practice. It's doing what you have to do whether you want to do it or not. And it is especially for the 4:30 a.m. group. That is like the definition of discipline. Self-discipline, the only kind that lasts, is action-oriented. It doesn't procrastinate and it doesn't make excuses. Setting a goal is not the main thing, said Tom Landry, the former Dallas Cowboys coach who's enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's deciding how you will go about achieving it and staying with that plan. The key is discipline. Once you have your dream and discipline, it is desire, dedication, determination, and discipline that keep you going. Ask yourself this: are you walking your talk? That's your homework from this one. Are you walking your talk? All right, that's not Poolside Chat number 7. I hope everybody's doing well. I keep thinking, I wonder how many of these I'm going to end up making, but it's only April, so I guess a lot. All right, miss everybody. Have a good day.